our very resilient and special guest. And the reason why I say resilient, that she, despite all of the horrible storms and you could say weather catastrophes where she is in Pakistan, she was able to make it today. So I am especially appreciative. Zartaj, thank you very much. She's the creator of QriosityNet. This is a blockchain platform that will revolutionize recruiting and hiring as we know it. So one of its main features and attributes is degree and credential verification over a distributed network. Now, I know when we talked last time, one of the biggest problems nowadays in hiring, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is actually both credential and resume fraud, essentially. I'm now actually starting to hear that word thrown around a bit more. So tell me about your journey into blockchain and what inspired you to start creating this.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. So basically, as I can tell you that I'm a software engineer by profession. However, I spent, almost a decade in the corporate industry working in the software development environments. But then I came into education, and that was a real game changer for me. That is where I started doing STEM education as well. And having my software engineering degree actually helped me to look at the educational process in a very different way, with a very different lens. And I was always about hands-on activities for children. So I looked at it that way. Having spent about a decade in the education space, I have interacted with parents, with students, with school management, so different people. And I've been through the process of how the educational and the learning experience is, not only in Pakistan, which is my hometown, home country, but also abroad. So due to my STEM education experience, I used to travel a lot to the United States, to UK, to around the world. And so that got us, got me to a point to start my startup, which was around STEM education. But during COVID, what particularly happened was, you see how COVID disrupted every aspect of our lives. And so that is where we sat down and thought about QriosityNet. And that is where we thought about all the different problems and surveyed the market as well as to how our parents and all these stakeholders, students, are being affected. And one of the things that came out, and this was always a problem, not only in Pakistan, but I think around the world, about fake degrees, fake, resumes, and people, how do they do that, and how do they end up with that? So all of that actually got us to think about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a model that is there, right?
Right.
But it doesn't have that verification aspect, right? Anybody is putting up anything. You can still create a fake profile and all of that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that is where we started to think about it. My co-founder and we sat down. We did a lot of market survey. We interviewed institutions, employers, everybody who came in contact with us during COVID. And that was, I think, the best time to actually do market surveys. People had time. So that's how we got started on this.
Got it. And I'm curious from a recruiting standpoint, is there a particular industry that's hit hardest by, I guess you could say, degree or resume fraud, or do you think, or is it kind of just evenly across, everywhere?
Great question, Adam. So I think it is pretty much across the board, because fake degrees exist, and
Right.
it is across the board. I haven't seen any particular industry affected with it.
Right.
But it is across the board. What has also happened is that, the need that actually showed from the surveys that we did, it actually came from the fact that some of the employers actually shared with us that they are not even looking at university degrees, but are looking at skills or work experience. Now, if somebody mentions about a work experience, how do they demonstrate that it's authentic? Again, the question of credibility, right?
Right.
And authenticity. So with that as well, I feel that it's not only your university degree or credentials or your college degree and credentials, but it is skills. Like, if I'm good at teamwork, what have I done? Has somebody endorsed it? If I have a mentor or an advisor, and I've worked with them on a project, because students work in their universities on final year projects as well. Now, the
Right.
project is one deliverable, but what about the skills that they develop, the project management skills, you see? So
Yeah.
we're talking about skills and credentials other than your academic credentials that need endorsement and verification.
Right. So, would it be fair to say, with COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdowns, would it be fair to say that this situation definitely worsened and increased resume credential degree fraud, to say the least?
Yeah, so yes, because everything is online, right?
Right.
Now we're relying on online means quite a bit. And there's all, with opportunity, there are frauds also that are happening. I mean, even look at the learning experience of students, right?
Right.
It is badly affected. So I feel that COVID, as far as there are problems, I see them as opportunities for us to think about and then come up with solutions. So this was, I think, the opportunity that we grabbed, and we actually, started working on it towards a solution.
That's awesome. So, given your background as a software engineer and developer, what was it like starting this project, trying to put it together? I'd imagine it's not a linear process. It's very incredible and very ambitious, and it's definitely a remedy that is very much needed. And in fact, I used to also work in recruiting as well, and that was an issue that would come up too. And sometimes, after the candidate was already placed, it was kind of too late. If something was doctored or something was altered or whatnot. So, in actually creating this blockchain and actually assembling this, how did you start? Where did you start? If you can kind of go into that journey a little bit.
Sure. So basically, with the blockchain aspect, so I'll tell you how we started QriosityNet. Basically, we were building a social media, essentially like LinkedIn, but that was for students, okay,
Right.
and for early career individuals. Now, why did we pick that exact customer segment? Because on LinkedIn, you see most of the people are experienced, they are CXOs, and they are sharing their journeys, their accomplishments. And so this made, when we surveyed the students, this makes the students disappointed and feel underachieved. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are only 24% of the youth who is on LinkedIn. And
That's
even
it.
their profiles, yes, 18 to 24 years of age, people, they're only 24%. And their profiles are even incomplete, which means that they're not engaged on the platform. Why? Because they don't find it useful. Universities
Wow.
force the students to create their profiles because they connect with alumni and find opportunities, but the students, they don't. And then the
Wow.
same goes for early career individuals. They don't
Right.
have that experience. So having said that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a pipeline of your future employees. And so the
Right.
sourcing part, which is the first step in the hiring process, is taken care of by QriosityNet by providing verified credentials. And that is where what happens is that student or the early career individual, they upload their credential that is verified by their university. Now, there's another twist. After the
Okay.
surveys, what we realized was that if the issuing body can put it on this platform, and then they issue a verified credential. Now, the issuing body would not do that. We're a new platform, right?
Right.
It will take time to build that credibility. So we
Right.
started off with individual institutions. In Pakistan, there's one university who's doing it. And so
Yes.
we started off with institutions doing it for them. Now, putting the blockchain together, since we're a startup, we actually started with API integration. And that
Okay.
is where we are focusing. Yeah. And so to give that experience to the users as to how they will go through verifying the document. So that is how we're doing. And now what the bigger is to get it, because even with blockchain, there are too many things. You must have heard about data protection, right?
Yes.
That
Yep.
is still an issue, right?
Yeah.
GDPR, there are two clauses that are not supported by blockchain. Like the blockchain doesn't satisfy that. And
Right,
we are
right.
collecting data, right? So that opens up another, whole discussion. And that is why we're into a private blockchain, because that is to some extent addressing those clauses of GDPR. So yeah, it's not an easy thing. It is still evolving. We're still into this, but we're very, very excited because we're working on something that's, emerging.
Yeah, and actually, some of the points you brought up, that was actually going to tie into my next question, beta testing and that experience, and what was some of the feedback that you were getting either from the universities themselves or even students submitting information onto this platform?
Yeah. Right. So students submitting it, we've got I would say a hook for students, and that is that if they submit their information for verification, and if their credential is verified, it gives them the opportunity of priority profiling. So when an employer is looking, has posted a job, and if they apply to it, their profile ranks at the top because their credential is verified. So that is something where the students would want their credentials to be verified and to put it on there. So that was, one feedback. Now, the other thing is, in order to have engagement, that LinkedIn is lacking, right?
Right.
What we do is that we make sure, so what we are working on now is the tokenomics part of it. We're going to work on that part. And so for every information, every bit that they share, they get tokens against it. And so that's a whole new, thing, or the whole section that we're currently working on to incentivize what information they're putting on it. Now, this actually gives the incentive to the user, unlike the other platforms which charge you to put your information on there. Like
Right.
LinkedIn Premium, it charges you for putting
Yeah, it
your
does.
information there, right?
Yeah. All right, watch out, LinkedIn. You may have a competitor right here. Don't take me off your platform. I was just kidding, kind of.
Yes, and I find that very interesting, incorporating tokens for the users on a private blockchain. That was one of my questions, whether you were going to incorporate that, but it seems like you're already doing that, because that sounds, it sounds kind of like opposite continuums of having something that's private, but incorporating tokenization, because, the users are already there, for a secured reason, whereas you often hear NFTs being used, for instance, on public marketplaces and things like that. So how are you incorporating tokens when it comes to getting other users, such as companies and, possibly other, opportunities for these users to come and view those? How are you getting that, out to the public?
Yeah. So basically, for the employers, there will be tokens for them as well. And so again, the biggest thing is that, and as I said, that we're still figuring out this, but for students, we figured it out that as they put their verified credentials, they get certain number of tokens. And so this is how we're going to do it for employers when they post the jobs over there. So now there's a whole job offer section that is there. And they also get a dashboard, an analytics platform that shows them, we like to call it a small business intelligence tool that shows them how many open positions have they put on this platform. So all of that is summarized into a very colorful dashboard that the employers can see. So how many open positions, how many are closed, how many applicants applied, how much time did it take to hire a person? Now, I share with you something very interesting that came across our research, and that is that it takes about 42 days to fill a position, according to research, for any one position. And it takes about an average of $4,000 is spent to fill a position. Now, this is, alarming. I'm sure it varies for small and big companies, but this is the average that I came across. And this is what I tell in my pitch as well when I'm talking, because this came out as a very alarming number. So our dashboard basically tells you how much cost is spent on hiring certain positions throughout a year or a given number of time, right? So for employers, it's all of this. It's not a very detailed recruitment platform, but this is what we're doing, and they can reach out to employees or potential candidates who have applied You can flag those candidates. You can reach out to them through QriosityNet. So all those things are there. Yeah.
All right. And I have a question about the inspiration behind the design of this. So, would it be fair to say that in part some of your inspiration in designing this kind of came from where LinkedIn was missing the mark at?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That is it. So we studied LinkedIn very thoroughly, okay, because it's an excellent platform. I use LinkedIn a lot. My co-founder uses LinkedIn a lot. We all use it, right?
Right.
And so we identified those gaps that were there. I remember that we were researching on how LinkedIn is catering to the university students. How many universities are there? What are the institutions doing? And that is how, and then we surveyed people, like how many students are there on LinkedIn actually, and how do their profiles look? We conducted a lot of orientation sessions where we would talk to students, do you know about LinkedIn? And a lot of them would say no. At least in Pakistan, this was the case. So we do orientations quite a lot. Yeah.
Right, and I would have to say too, even here in the United States, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of engagement among college students on LinkedIn as well. To be honest, it's mostly, it seems to me, late 20s and up. Just from an anecdotal point of view, that's what it looks like to me as I'm using it. So, if we can get into the weeds a little bit about this, what blockchain are you using, and how did you come to the decision to use that specific blockchain?
Okay. So we have started off with IBM's blockchain.
Okay.
And it is the IBM solution.
I've used it before, yeah.
So I'm also considering others, but for now, I think IBM is doing a pretty good job for us. So yeah, that is the blockchain we're using. And so far, whatever we are doing with it, the verification part, it is very well taken care of. And as a startup, you're trying to cut down on your costs. So there's quite a bit of, cost coverage that you get in IBM credits. I was part of some programs where we've gotten it. So I think that is how, we thought that this would be better. But we are exploring other blockchains. And also, as I mentioned, that I was recently, researching about the permissible blockchain as well. So currently it's completely private, but there is something in between public and private. And so I was exploring that as well with my team. So let's see how it goes. But yeah, this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm wondering, as far as credential and let's say resume fraud in the realm of internships. So let's say like in certain grad schools or med schools or law schools, when people are applying for like clerkships, they're applying for these externships, for, I guess you could say, real hands-on professional experience as you're getting degrees. Are students also forging or altering their background for those type of things? These unpaid internships, these externships. Oh, okay. So yes,
I think that happens, and that was the most difficult bit of information to actually find, because nobody would go out in the survey and say that yes, I'm forging these documents or I'm making. Yeah, nobody would tell you, but this happens. So. Some of the employers shared with us that they did receive it, or they ended up hiring someone or getting somebody on board, even in terms of internships. They were, unable to deliver what they were hired for. Particularly in terms of CVs, people try to mention things that even if they know a little bit of it, they would try to put it on and not the level. So on the resumes, we don't really put what level of proficiency are we at. Let's say considering a skill, right?
Right.
So that way, it comes in very handy. And so in HR and recruitment, if you see there, it saves a lot of time in verifying those details. I know that from the student's point of view, in educational institutions, there's a process of endorsing or attesting a photocopy of the original document. So every time you have to apply for an admission, you have to submit a big bunch of documentation, which is endorsed, which is attested. And so basically, once you have the record on the blockchain, it is verified forever, right? And so that process, that pain of, going through that process over and over again for every admission or every job application. Job applications don't require the attestation, but at the same time, the employers have this comfort that yes, the credential is verified, right?
Right. That's a very good point. And from a programming perspective, how good are these, I guess you could say, doctored credentials of, of degrees and resumes and background? Is there something special going on? Because it's very prevalent now, and there are a decent amount of applicants who, still fly under the radar. So I'm wondering, what's going on as far as the coding aspects of some of these fraudulent documents being submitted to, employers?
So basically, in terms of coding, it's basically the hash that's generated. Now, there's
Okay.
two ways of putting. Either you put the document on blockchain, or you put the hash. The hash is generated out of certain blocks, right? Public
Right.
and private combinations, and that is how you put it over there. So either you put the document or you put the hash over there. So right now it is the document that is uploaded on QriosityNet. So we upload the document there.
Wow. And as far as your journey, now obviously you are an experienced software developer and programmer, but how did you get into blockchain in the first place? I feel that everybody has their own individual story as far as what flipped the switch as far as, starting this passion.
Okay. It's a great question, Adam. I love to answer this. So being a woman and coming from Pakistan, which is a developing country, it's very unusual for a girl or a woman to be in the software engineering field in the first place. When I was studying software engineering, I didn't have any other girl in my class.
Oh, wow.
I think 2, 3. But when I started my professional career, I was the only girl in the whole development team. So that was the thing. Now, it was somehow in me to do something which is unique, which no one else is doing, and that challenges me. So I would not be doing something which is mundane, which is, routine. I always want change. So every 3, 4 years, I used to even switch my job because I cannot stay in the same place.
Right.
So that is something, this is my nature, you can say. Now, I also like doing a lot of research, and technology has always been, a fascination for me. So I would always go and look up emerging technologies.
Sure.
And so when it came to QriosityNet, we were talking about it. And then I think it was because of the research that, this blockchain word was constantly coming, because I'm signed up on websites where I, get these emerging technologies, news about it. And then I started, reading up on it. And so the incubation center that I'm a part of, I luckily met this guy from another startup who was doing blockchain. And so we had a very long discussion. And then we talked about bringing it on, and then seeing QriosityNet from the lens of blockchain, and then doing a lot of research around it. So that is how we got into it. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So, often Chris and myself, Chris, and Bethany will kind of lament on this, but obviously you see in the United States and much of Europe, many countries, especially countries that don't understand it. And I'll even say Washington D.C. and Wall Street here. There are very adamant, deliberate efforts to regulate blockchain and really kind of stifle a lot of startups before they even get started, which, unfortunately, here in the U.S., we'd like to think that this is, really the bastion of, I guess you could say real free market capitalism. But then again, you see things that are coming out of D.C. You also see things that are coming out of, Europe as well. So I'm wondering, in Pakistan right now, what's the political situation as far as tech and blockchain? Is it pretty open? Is it pretty flexible, or is it more restrictive?
Okay. So in terms of blockchain, I think we're just starting off. There are very few startups, but I would say we're starting off. In terms of tech, there have been a lot of investment in Pakistan, and Pakistan is emerging as a hotspot for startup investments. Right. We have seen quite a few in the tech startups as well, in logistics, in ed tech, in multiple, in many spaces. But as far as blockchain specifically is concerned, it is a very new concept still.
Oh, okay.
And when we talk to institutions
about startup there.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, when we talk to institutions about it, or even employers about it, the idea of verified credentials, when I say that, that is something that hooks them on. And
Yes,
that is the
I can see
only
that.
thing that, they start talking about. How are you doing it? What does an institute do? So share the journey of an institution, you see?
Right.
So there is interest. They do want to do it, but the tech side of things, I think it will take some time, but not a lot of time. It is an emerging concept, and there's a whole community. So just, I think, a month ago, I was part of a community and a competition which was around blockchain solutions. So I was a judge at that. So I mean, it's
All
it's
right.
starting in
Nice.
Pakistan. Yeah, I was
That's
judging
awesome.
that competition. Yeah. So that was pretty good to see. And I'm not too sure. Have you heard about Stacks? I'm sure you
Yes.
have.
Yes.
Stacks, right? So
Yes.
Stacks Pakistan is a very active community of emerging developers even. So there are
Oh,
developers,
nice.
there are students at universities who are given training by Stacks on Clarity, and they
Yes.
are creating their community of developers. Because when you think of implementing blockchain in your solution, first you need to find people who can develop it for you, right?
Right.
So yeah, so that is also taking shape in Pakistan, and I would say that it is emerging. It started.
Wow, that's great. And as far as CuriosityNet itself, how many universities have jumped on board participating on this network, whether in Pakistan or elsewhere?
Yeah, so we have about 5,000 users on the platform already.
Wow,
And they are, yeah, and we got them in, I think, 5 months. We have this traffic. Out of these, around
that is awesome.
52 or 53, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Around 52 or 53 are institutions and employers, which includes startups as well. Because startups don't get to advertise their job openings and all of that. So,
Right.
we had some fellow startups join the platform as well. So the traction has been really good on the platform. And so, yeah, this is the number of users. And we have been posting job opportunities from multinational companies, and from international opportunities as well. I would say that due to COVID, there was, the remote jobs have become very common, right?
Right.
So people sitting in Pakistan or people sitting anywhere in the world can work anywhere. So that way, internships and all this summer, June, July, went really well. And we were able to, I think, serve about 30, 35 people who got internships or jobs through this platform.
Wow, that's great. And I'm going to ask this final question. I'll defer to Chris and Bethany. So, often I think some of the greatest accomplishments have the loneliest of journeys. I mean, you see that throughout history. You see that in modern times as well. So, for you being the only female developer in your professional life, or especially in that environment in Pakistan, have you inspired other women along the way, and have you mentored any other women programmers in your career?
Sure. So basically, yes, the answer is yes. The reason I am in the STEM education field is it is my passion to inspire younger girls and women. And I'm a final year projects evaluator for women universities, particularly there's a women university here. I also mentor and I volunteer to be a judge at these robotics competitions that take place in US. Um, and then I prepare robotics teams from Pakistan and take them abroad for participating in different competitions. Apart from that, I am working on some research projects which are related to advancing role of women in STEM and in the tech
Awesome.
fields. So yes, these are some things that I do voluntarily because this is my passion. I want to see more girls and women in tech
Yes.
because I feel that they make a very good contribution. And you have a very diverse and inclusive workforce that way.
That is awesome. And well, I definitely think you're a pioneer here. And I think you have a lot more fans than you probably realize. So that is
Thanks.
amazing. And listen, I can't wait to hear more about what CuriosityNet will be doing over the next few months. But anyway, I defer to Chris and Bethany for their set of questions.
Sure, thank you.
Yes. So this isn't much of a question, but similarly to you, when it comes to my background approaching into technology and ultimately in blockchain, I actually come from a biology based background. So it is kind of an uphill battle to kind of approach another form of education and form of, learning and opportunities when you come from a different background. So I really appreciate having opportunities to speak to other women who have accomplished these goals and are allowing other women to learn and mentor from them and accomplish their goals as well. So Christopher, if you have any other questions, you can definitely chime in.
Yeah, and just a couple questions, not really questions, more comments from the whole interview that we had. I thank you so much for coming on. Verification to me is one of the most important things because it kind of is trust, and that's what blockchain is all about. And when I first started learning about blockchain and developing Piña, one of the first things that came to mind to me was certifications and degrees and things like that being stored on the blockchain. I was having a conversation with a gentleman. He helps build buildings in Kenya and for underprivileged children, and sets up computer labs and everything for them to learn and understand coding. And these kids live in shacks on the dirt floor. So for them, land ownership was impossible because the government could just come in and say they own it. There was no way to prove that they had the land. And something like putting that on a blockchain would be very beneficial for them. And something like putting their certifications or their degrees on a blockchain where they can't store it in their house or have a possibility of government corrupting that file or taking it away to just say, oh no, that doesn't exist, is a way for them to store their knowledge and value and things they've earned. So what you're doing by providing a platform that makes it easy for them to do something like that is I commend you for that. I think that's very great because there's a great value in not just doing it for people that have easy access to degrees, but some people that just don't have, like the situation I just explained, where you're literally growing up on a dirt floor and you don't have a way to store that degree and make sure that, if you go to another country, all you need is your seed phrase and you'll be able to access it on a blockchain, just like your finances. So a lot of people will look at Bitcoin and blockchain and think it's only just about cryptocurrency, but not understand that there's a lot of trust and verification that it provides on the technical end for people to provide trust with trustlessness in society. So thank you so much for starting to develop a platform like that. And like you said, it's very true. I don't see a lot of younger people under, let's say, the age of 25 using LinkedIn because they do see intimidated. It's where their parents are. They don't really want to be there. It's kind of like what happened with Facebook, then Instagram, then TikTok. The younger generation wants to not be on the same platform as their parents. It's just the way it is. And yeah. I think that you building this platform for the younger generation and to make it more intuitive and accessible and efficient is the way it needs to be. And adding in the tokenomics, it reminded me, I'm sure you've heard of Civic, the platform Civic. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I think I've heard about it. Yeah,
it's not for verifying. It's for verifying identification. It's not for verifying certifications and your credentials. And what they do is something similar with the tokenomics. Is they'll, if you give information, you get tokens. And if you're a verifier, like an institution, like you were saying, like a university that verifies that degree is legitimate, then you're also rewarded in tokens. And then your business model makes it a full circle by now adding in those jobs by people for job searchers. So your Civic, what was always frustrating for me is I didn't see the full economic circle and how there was a loop there. And I do see the loop because there's now a demand to buy that token back from the people that are providing that information and verifying it so they can post and job search on the platform. So now there is a circular economy that you've developed through your platform for that. So that's actually very unique, and I applaud you for that. So No real questions, but just more observations of
Okay.
what you're doing and really liking it, where you're going with it, and it's definitely needed. I do see this being also for people that really don't have credentials per se, that are more in like the hospitality or service industry, but may have feedback. What we're working on with Piña is for service professionals, they can, create a profile, and instead of having to leave a review with a, let's say, business, you can leave a review directly with that person on their profile if you had an interaction with them. So those collections of reviews and things like that could be integrated, because it will be a Web3 platform and application that you're building. And Web3, I see the applications working along with one another, being collaborative with these digital identities rather than being, competitive. More collaborating and keeping the user in mind and allowing that to flow. So yes, I do see the value of this, just outside of more of the business professional credential thing, but also a credibility in the service professional field as well, which is, something you might want to explore out once you, obviously start getting through the certifications and things like that. Real life experiences are harder to verify. And I think that your platform would be able to, integrate easily with ours. It's it's all about trust, verification, and giving the end user a seamless experience at the end of the day. It's really about what we want and forcing the user to use just our platform. It's about being open and allowing the user to use whatever platform they want.
Right.
Is best for them.
Yes.
So
That's awesome, Chris.
yeah, I think that what you're doing is great, and I really hope that the tokenomics work out for you there. I know it's a difficult thing to create a economic loop with tokenomics, and I think that you solved that. And if you do continue to grow and get enough traction, there will be demand from job seekers to buy that token and continue to drive the price for you. And my personal opinion, I don't see the future, but seeing like in being very in depth entrenched in this economy and understanding a lot about tokenomics, I always find it very difficult to see how a project drives utility for or demand for the token, and that always pushes me away from looking further into a project. But when you have demand for the token and people are going to need it for something, that drives it just drives your platform in general. If people want that token, then there's going to be more volume going to your platform. There's going to be more value added to your platform, and that's what blockchain is all about.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
and I do. Awesome. And I do have a few more questions as well. So from a linguistic point of view, if I'm to look at Pakistan on a map, it is in a very strategic location, because you could say on the western side or on the left-hand side, you have Iran and Afghanistan, numerous languages there. And on the right, on the east side, you also have India and you have China. So I'm wondering right now, what languages are available, and what languages do you plan on introducing onto your platform?
Sure, cool. So currently it is available in English. And we plan on, so if we talk about India and China, they are the major contributors for LinkedIn. So majority of the, the users come from India and China. And so when we, we plan on scaling pretty soon, so that when we go out of Pakistan, currently it is organic. We have 80% of the users from Pakistan. The rest are from Southeast Asian countries.
Right.
And also from United States and Canada. We have about 4 or 5% of users. But we haven't been focusing on these regions, which we will. So going forward, what we will have is local languages is the way to grow. So if we plan on going, because LinkedIn is out of China, that again is an opportunity, but it's not easy to go into China, right? So with local language, developing, translating QriosityNet for China, and then also having local sales teams. That is the strategy to penetrate into a new region. So China would come next, but first it is India and other South Asian countries that we're focusing on. We're currently in talks with Singapore. Singapore Science Center, and then we're also in talks with in Thailand, so capturing the Southeast Asian market. So yes, we have local partners in these regions, and we're talking to them, and there is interest. We did a lot of orientations for school students and university students there as well. So yeah, looking forward to it. But yeah, that is the idea. The translation is going to be there, and it will be available in different languages.
That's awesome. And I know this might be a little bit further down the line, but is there any goal or any objective on your end to expand into Central Asia? And the reason why I ask is because obviously where Pakistan is, it's on that precipice between Central Asia and South Asia. It almost seems kind of wedged in between. And every time I pick up these financial magazines, I keep reading about the emerging markets in Central Asia right now. That's supposed to be really the next boom over the next few years. So I'm talking about like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and there's so many languages within those countries as well. And considering the fact that, it's funny because a lot of these countries are also located along the Silk Road. I'm a huge history buff, so don't mind me. But are there any goals in mind for that type of expansion, maybe northward into Central Asia?
Yeah, so in the long term, definitely, why not? But in the first 3-4 years, we're really focused around Southeast Asia, India, China, and United States, Australia. This is the focus area. But definitely going forward, why not? I mean, it's a global product, and that is why we have registered it in the United States. So Curiosity is registered in the United States. It's an American company. But we're based out of Pakistan, and to keep costs under control, we are, majority of our tech team and everything is being handled from here. But it's truly a global product because we've seen that demand. Whenever we talk to people outside of Pakistan, there is a lot of interest and demand, I would say, not only interest. So definitely, yeah.
That is awesome. So this is as much of an inspirational journey this is. It must also have its lonely moments. It's very difficult moments. Maybe you're beating your head against the wall. Why am I doing this? So for you to keep doing this, what's your kind of guiding philosophy? Like, what's your inner compass? What kind of keeps you going doing this? Because I think, whether in Pakistan or the United States, this is a very difficult project regardless. And by the way, I think this would do amazing here. So what ignites the fire in you to keep going, so to say?
Okay, so I am a mother of 2 teenagers. Oh. And so it's like a personal pain point as well, right? When I stepped into STEM education, I felt that I could do it for my own kids, but then why not benefit the others around me as well? If I have this in me, and this is exactly what I tell my children as well. So this is a personal pain point where I don't see such a thing for my own children. And so why not get into this? I'm that kind of a woman, okay? If it is difficult, let's try it out, right? So I love taking challenges. And I'm telling you, I've been into very difficult situations because of this. Right. But I don't know, somehow doing something challenging and overcoming the challenge is like an addiction and is like something that just gives me a lot of pleasure. That's what I can say. And then it is truly, my co-founder who has been with me throughout the journey of the first startup and the second. I would like to take his name. He's Nahyan Farouk. He is always, sorry?
Okay. Is he on LinkedIn?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. All right, I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, he is. So Nahyan always keeps me on track, I would say. There are times when I literally feel like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, nope, we have to do it. We're in it. We have to do it. We have to take it to completion. So it's like, being there for each other. And I think it's a blessing in the startup to have somebody who shares the journey with you, who understands the challenges and the problems that you face. Because this is what I've learned in the startup, trainings and everything in the entrepreneurial system, that if you're alone as a founder, it is an overwhelming task. And there are many points when you're about to give up. But I think these are the 2 reasons, my kids and then my co-founder, who has been there as a very good support throughout.
Wow, that's awesome. And in putting this project together, what were some of your proudest moments? Like, what were some of these benchmarks you achieved? This could either be programming, this could be on the business end, this could be on the marketing end, this can be even just on the emotional end. What were your proudest moments where like you hit this mark and you're like, okay, I'm doing the right thing here?
Yeah.
Like something that maybe gave you a sign. Keep going. Like this is the right direction to go.
Right. So the first thing was that when we thought about making a social media, okay, that is a big thing. Now, making a website, a portal, an app, anybody can do it, right? And people are doing it. And I'll tell you, there are better platforms that are available, but they're not social media. And when we talk about students and early career individuals, we're talking about Gen Z. Gen Z wants to be a part of a community. In order to build a community, it has to have social media elements. Now, to build a social media was a huge thing. And then we found this. So he is our mentor as well. But he started off helping us with developing the product tech team. And they had a similar experience of developing a project, which is similar to this, like a social media. So they sort of had that experience and they came along and became part of the journey. So this is a Swedish company, also has a branch in Pakistan. I know the owner, I knew him as a mentor, but then they joined us in our journey. So that was the moment when, it felt like,
very nice.
Oh, yes, we can do it. Because early on, it seemed very difficult. The other thing, in United States, I'm sure you've heard of IDEO, the design firm.
Yes.
Yeah. So IDEO challenge was announced, during COVID, and they had this, it was called Education Reopen Challenge. We participated in it. We put the solution there and we won. Out of 256 solutions around the world from, I think, 34 countries, we were one of the selected solutions. I think the only one from Pakistan. And we are now featured as part of their solutions exchange. So that was a real motivation for us. And this was just in June. We had launched QriosityNet in March of this year. And in June, we won this competition. So that was really a big thing for us.
Wow, that's awesome. And then on the flip side of that question, as far as from a business point of view, programming point of view, emotional point of view, what were the greatest obstacles in this? Were you really maybe even rethought about whether doing this at all?
So when we pitch this idea to people, they always compare us with LinkedIn, right? How are you? What are you doing differently?
Right.
And then when you talk about blockchain, the most difficult question that I still cannot, I can be honest, I guess, I still cannot answer is that how long will it take LinkedIn to build all of this? They have the team, they have everything. I don't know what's stopping them from doing this, but then we have come this far. So this is one thing that, scares me as well.
Yes.
But I think my co-founder and I were targeting on being acquired by LinkedIn. Let's see, it's a long shot.
Right.
But yeah, so far, I mean, that is the only thing. Otherwise, we are too stubborn to give up, I guess. That's what I can say.
And you know what? And I'll tell you this, that type of grit, that type of trait probably creates more winners than anything else. Because I think most people, just by instinct, will tend to give up, especially, rationally or irrationally, will tend to give up. So I think that's definitely awesome. And since we're on the theme of recruiting and hiring, so being an entrepreneur, when you're bringing new people on, what do you look for in candidates and people that apply to work for QriosityNet? Now, obviously, credentials are important, especially truthful credentials are important. But as far as characters and traits and qualities, what do you look for? Like, what pops into your head? What comes up on your radar when you have somebody in front of you and they say, Zartaj, I would like to work here? It's a junior developer, or let's say some other role.
Okay, so any role. Personally, I look for if they demonstrate problem-solving skills and conflict management. And if
that is very good. That does not come up in interviews.
Yeah. And if they show empathy. I think that is one thing that is missing from everywhere, I feel. We're not empathetic. So I think empathy, conflict management skills, problem solving, those are the things that I look at on a personal level in a person when I'm
Right.
hiring them.
Right. And as an entrepreneur, what are some of the biggest turnoffs as far as presentation or qualities that, let's say, applicants will show? Because I do feel like people go into an interview a lot of times, they put on really a mask that they think will work, but we're people, we're complicated, and also I think we can all see through a lot of that bullshit, to be candid. So if you could tell me, so what is essentially a big red flag or a turnoff, so to say, when an applicant comes and interviews at your company? Like, what things have you seen that are like, okay, I'm staying away from this person?
So basically, people who list things in their resume or start talking about, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I've done. Okay.
Right.
I look at candidates sharing what they have learned out of that experience. What has that changed within them? Okay. What that experience has brought in terms of their personality, in terms of their professional experience. And when I say experience, it literally means it could be a sport that you were playing that added and shaped you as a person, that added to your personality. So talk about what you've learned from that experience rather than listing it down. If it is an email that somebody is sending me, trust me, if the email comes to me without a subject written as to why you're sending me an email, or if there's an email, trust me, we receive it. There's an email without the name signed. Now, what do you expect me to do? And only the resume attached. That's a complete turnoff. That's a complete turnoff.
Yes. Absolutely. So with QriosityNet, what do you have planned for 2022?
2022, yeah, that's interesting. So definitely, I want to, by the end of 2022, I want to complete my planning on tokenomics and probably working towards it. I know it's a big thing, it's a big target, but I do plan on, getting closer to this one. We do want to start incentivizing users on our platform in some way. So that is it. We also want to go out of Pakistan, establish ourselves in one other region somewhere, either in Middle East or in Southeast Asia. It depends. We're talking to two different, partners. So yeah, getting out of Pakistan, definitely, because that would help us if we establish any other region outside of Pakistan. We know that we can replicate the same model in other regions as well. So yeah, getting truly international, then that is the target.
That is awesome. Well, listen, Zartaj, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I really love this platform. I can't wait to learn more about it. And especially, thank you for coming despite the catastrophic weather situation over where you are. So I greatly appreciate it. Chris and I and Bethany, we were very excited for this show all week, and especially with what you're going to be bringing to hiring and recruiting. This is very, very promising. So listen, I'm definitely going to keep in touch. If you end up expanding to the United States, please let any one of us three know. We would love to be a part of that and help out in some way, shape, or form.
Sure. That's great. Thank you very much. It was lovely meeting all of you, Bethany, Christopher, and Adam, of course. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And definitely, if I'm coming to US, which I normally do, so I'll definitely see you guys. All right.
Let us know. Yes. Come to Miami.
Sure.
Yes, and I'd definitely love to catch up with you as well, just to pick your brain and to share stories as well. Because some of the stories that you've shared, have definitely resonated with me in the past few days, just talking to family members about PiñaPay and their input as well. So I'd love to, share those with you and, get your input as well.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.